I am entering my 8th year as a Turo host, and with nearly 7,000 trips on my profile, dozens and dozens of cars purchased over the years, today I'm going to be giving you guys an update on my Turo fleet, what my Turo plan is for the coming year, as well as what my plans are in general for my businesses, my Turo fleet, and of course this YouTube channel. Not only for 2025, which will absolutely be the major focus in this video, but even beyond. Now, 2025 was a big year for several reasons. But before we dive into that, I do want to just quickly remind you guys that we are currently running our Christmas sale, and you can use the code Christmas225 to get $225 off the car sharing masterclass. Not only does it come with hours of course content, but you also get access to our private Discord, our monthly Zoom calls, and we also offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. That way you can give it a try at no risk. To check it out, you can do so by clicking the link down in the description below, and again, you can use the coupon code Christmas225. Now, 2024 was a big year for several reasons. First, I switched corporate jobs. Previously, I worked in franchise consulting, and currently I work in marketing. We hired our first full-time employee. We bought a second rental property, which we've listed on Airbnb. We launched some new course products and expanded the course The Car Sharing Masterclass, and we paid off the Lincoln Navigator, which we purchased last year, and that means once again our Turo fleet is 100% debt-free. Even this YouTube channel has seen some pretty solid growth this year. But when it comes to my actual Turo fleet, we're actually flat whenever it comes to vehicle growth, which means that the amount of cars we ended last year is about the same compared to the amount of cars we're going to end with this year. In December of 2023, we ended the year with just about 30 cars, and this year we will be doing the exact same. Now, this does not mean that we didn't add or make any changes to our Turo fleet this year, because that definitely wasn't the case. This year alone, we added a 2012 Ford Escape, a 2013 Smart Car, a 2013 Hyundai Tucson, and we have 2 to 3 cars joining our fleet between now and the end of the year. And while we did add a few good cars this year, we did lose a bunch as well. Our 2011 Ford Focus, 2013 Mazda 3, and our 2013 Hyundai Tucson were all totaled, while our 2007 Ford Focus and our 2011 Honda Civic were sold. And so as a result, we ended up the year basically flat. And you know, I'm actually not mad about this at all, even given the fact that we did enter 2024 with the goal of reaching 35 cars by the end of the year. So by all metrics, we failed to reach that goal. But as I just mentioned, I'm really not mad or even disappointed by this, because by the time we reached the beginning of the second half of 2024, it became abundantly clear that we were not going to reach 35 cars, and there were a variety of reasons as to why. 2024 had a lot of challenges, and this summer specifically was probably one of the most challenging summers of my entire career. My husband and I knew that we wanted to accomplish a lot in 2024. We wanted to buy a rental property. We wanted to launch a business that we've been working on with HP's best friend, which I will talk about in another video. We wanted to hire a full-time employee, and we knew that a career shift in my corporate job was something that I wanted to explore as well. And as it turned out, all of these major changes basically began to happen at the exact same time. At the beginning of this year, I had booked a flight to New Mexico to go look at potential rental properties, and the Friday before I was supposed to leave, I had a very impromptu and not scheduled conversation with my now boss to talk about a new job opportunity. I ended up getting offered a job on the spot, and my now boss asked if I could start the following Monday, which I agreed to. I started my new corporate job before I even gave my 2-week notice on my prior corporate job, and I also started on the exact same day that I was in New Mexico looking at rental properties. And then a couple of weeks later, I got insanely sick with COVID and bronchitis back to back, and I spent the entire month of July extremely ill. And during this period of time, to be struggling with bronchitis and COVID, to be starting a new job that was extremely jarring to my schedule, keeping up with my YouTube channel, the courses, and my Turo fleet, hiring a new employee, and also closing on a rental property that's out of state, it was a lot, and I felt as though I was just trying to survive the summer. And during this time, things really started to settle down. We ended up closing on the Airbnb, was able to get the house prepped, ready, and listed by the end of October. As I mentioned a moment ago, we hired our employee, who's really allowed for HP to take a step back from the day-to-day of the Turo fleet and help me with more high-level tasks. I've also finally gotten in more of a groove with my corporate job, and for the first time since probably May, HP and I feel like operationally we're ready to take on more cars. And so while the Turo fleet technically didn't grow this year, we did make a ton of other progress in other aspects of our business, and we've really laid out the foundation and the groundwork that we need in order to grow quite a bit in 2025, while also building the framework for us to continue to build these other businesses as well, which is something that I'm really happy with and ultimately means that 2024, at least for me, was a success. But of course, the question of this video really is, what are my plans for my Turo fleet in 2025. We do plan to get 40 cars this year. We'll end 2024 with 30, but our plan is to add 4 to 5 rapidly within the first 6 to 8 weeks of the year and then continue to grow throughout the year. And while we do absolutely plan to continue to grow our Turo fleet, one major change that we are making in 2025 is that we are beginning to incorporate direct rentals into our business, which if you saw my Turo in 2025 video, this is something that probably isn't a surprise to you. Now, I don't want to do a full-fledged deep dive into every single reason as to why we're going this direction, but I definitely will talk about it briefly here because I do think that the context is important. Now, despite what many of you may believe, our desire to go direct really has nothing to do with Turo policy, or at least not in the way that you probably think. I'm in general really happy with Turo, and while I am absolutely frustrated with their review policy and their all-star host policy, these policies in and of themselves are not enough to make me want to go direct. There is one policy and one policy only as to why I've been incentivized to try to do direct rentals, and that is ultimately Turo's vehicle eligibility policy. If you've seen my videos before, then you know that my niche on Turo is low-end economy cars. Very basic cars like Toyotas, Hyundais, Mazdas. And if you've seen my videos or if you're familiar with Turo, then you also know that Turo has a rolling 12-year requirement for vehicles, which means that at the point of listing a vehicle, a car can be no older than 12 years old. But as long as you keep a car that's in good condition on the Turo platform, cars that are older than 12 years old can stay on the platform. As a result, I have a few cars in my fleet that are 2007s, 2008s, 2010s, but if I was to buy a car today in 2024, the oldest car that I can list is a 2012. While I totally understand why Turo has this policy in place, I mean, you have to draw the line somewhere, and having a bunch of early 2000s vehicles doesn't really make a ton of sense for the Turo platform. From my perspective, many of the best cars in my fleet are older cars. For example, my Toyota Yaris's that are between 2007 and 2014, they are absolutely bulletproof. Far more reliable than even some of my much newer, more expensive cars. And renters really love these cars because of the fact that they're older and so they're cheap, they're very reliable, and they get great gas mileage. And so our idea with direct rentals really stems from the fact that we want the ability to buy some of these older Toyota Yaris's and rent them out to people on a long-term basis, but because of the fact that with Turo you can't list anything that's a 2012 or older, we aren't able to buy more older Toyota Yaris's to add them to our fleet because they no longer qualify for Turo. And so that's where direct rentals comes in. With direct rentals, our plan is to grow a small separate fleet, completely different from our Turo fleet, full of cars that really are no longer eligible for Turo. We're going to be at first specifically targeting Toyota product because they're so reliable, and we are specifically looking for Yaris's. We're going to buy older Yaris's, rent them to people on a weekly basis for a reasonable rate, and then these people can either use those cars for daily commuting, gig work, whatever they choose. I have absolutely no desire renting out high-end cars direct or even doing daily renters. These are going to be long-term rentals on a weekly basis, specifically for these older, cheaper, really reliable cars. Now, this is a bit of an experiment, and I'm sure many of you watching will scoff and say this is a terrible idea, but this is something I've been wanting to try for a very long time. I really believe in this idea that lower income consumers deserve the same quality of experience as higher income consumers, and while people online oftentimes rag on the cars that I buy, not so much here on YouTube, but definitely on TikTok, and what people don't see is how many people rent out our cars and then show an incredible amount of appreciation for having the option to rent a cheap, reliable, and safe car. And while we absolutely do get those difficult guests that are just hard to work with, we also get a ton of guests who rent our cars and then afterwards will send us a message and say, hey, thank you so much for having a cheap, reliable, accessible car. This has been a lifesaver. The bottom line is I think that lower income individuals are just simply underserved in this space. And I think that when it comes to people who fall in a lower income bracket and they're looking for reliable, safe transportation, their only real option is Turo, public transportation, which really isn't great in certain parts of the world. It certainly isn't in Dallas, or to go and buy a car with some predatory loan that's going to stick them in a hole of debt that they're never going to be able to get out of. And so I think providing people with cheap, reliable, long-term transportation, I think that there is a real opportunity here for me to grow my business adjacent to Turo, but also to provide a real value to consumers. And now that the dust has settled with everything that I spoke about earlier, and now that we have an employee to help, I think it's the best time to try in 2025. So that's what we're doing. Now, once we've gotten our feet wet into the world of direct rentals, I will be making videos on this on my channel. I also will be updating the car sharing masterclass as well, but I probably won't talk about it a whole lot until I have more experience under my belt. Maybe I'll do like a mid 2025 update or something. But believe it or not, this is something that we have been working on in the background for quite a while now. So our direct rental fleet will be up and running, I think a lot quicker than many of you may think. So definitely stay tuned. The next change that we'll be making in 2025, and this is one that we've been wanting to do for a very, very long time now, and that is a shop. The fact of the matter is we are simply running out of space to be able to operate our entire fleet out of our home garage, and going into a shop is something we definitely need to do. We are looking to get a shop this year, and while the goal was originally to buy a space, the real estate prices in the Dallas market and interest rates being so high, I just don't think that this is in the cards for 2025. And ideally, if we were to buy a space, I would like to buy a multi-unit space where we can take up one unit and then rent out the others. And I do think that that's going to be like a niche property that we'll really have to keep an eye out on. And I don't think that we'll end up finding that in 2025 within our budget. And so instead, for our first shop, we will be going with something a bit more basic to kind of test the waters of how a shop impacts our business. Something with a garage where we can put a lift, work on the cars, but then also a small office space as well. So I will definitely keep you posted on that. And as far as timeline goes, we would like to do something in the first quarter of 2025, but it may end up being the second. Now, I don't want to go into a ton of depth here on this next point because of the fact I will make an individual video about this at some point in the future, probably January or February. But HP and I did launch a business with his best friend. Now, this is a fully operational business. It has been for about 6 or 7 months now, and it's actually going quite well. We didn't actually start this business from scratch. Instead, we invested in his friend's business and is helping it grow. And believe it or not, this business is also in the automotive space, so it is sort of applicable to what I talk about here on my channel. But I am not prepared to talk about it in depth in this video, and I will make a standalone video about this later on, but that is something that we have our hands in as well. And our goal with this business is to continue to grow it and to eventually be in a position to where I could quit my corporate job and kind of join this company as my corporate job, but we are a ways from that being a reality. And last but not least is real estate. I would like for us to get another rental property next year. If I did, it would be a long-term tenant, and it would most likely be something in the area in which I live. Because of the fact we already have one out-of-state rental property that's a short-term rental, and we have another rental property that is a long-term rental local to the Dallas area. Because of the fact that we already have one out-of-state property, I don't love the idea of getting another one right off the bat, and I would instead like to get a local property first, and then maybe in 2026 get another out-of-state one. And if you see my videos like this in the past, then you know that Section 8 is something that I've been thinking about doing for a very, very long time. I actually seriously looked into it in 2023, had plans to do it in 2024, but then ultimately decided against it. This is something that's similar to my point with the direct rentals. I do think this is a space that is underserved. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, but I just haven't been able to pull the trigger on this. And I truthfully don't know if 2025 is going to be the year for that either. And as far as my plans for this YouTube channel, truthfully, it's going to be more of the same. I like making automotive content. I like making content about Turo and car sharing in the world of rentals. And I will probably continue just doing that for 2025. As of right now, my posting schedule is for the most part every Monday I post a Turo video, and then every Wednesday and Friday I post an automotive related video. And I feel as though that schedule has been working really well. And so that's going to continue unless I find something that works better. And so there you have it, what I have planned for my Turo fleet, for my business, and for this channel. You know, people sometimes ask me why I don't have a larger fleet. In fact, just this past October, I was at the Turo Powerhouse Summit in Phoenix, Arizona. And at the Powerhouse Summit, Turo gave you like a badge that showed how many cars you have. And during the Powerhouse Summit, multiple people came up to me and said that they were surprised to see that I only had 30 cars and they thought that I had a larger fleet. And the truth is, I have no desire to get to 100 cars. Like none. I love the act of starting and growing a business, and I'm constantly coming up with new ideas of things that I want to try out. And Turo in the world of car sharing has allowed for me to create an amazing business that has ultimately been the foundation for what so many of my other businesses also are about, like this YouTube channel or my course, the Car Sharing Masterclass. As I mentioned a moment ago, even my new business with my husband and his best friend is adjacent to the world of car sharing. And so to be able to grow these other businesses, to explore these other passion projects while simultaneously being able to grow my fleet with my own cars 100% debt-free, not having to take on any investors or co-hosts. To me, that's the perfect scenario. Even if that means that ultimately I probably never will get to that 100 car count. To me, it's worth it. And so there you guys have it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Remember that my course, the Car Sharing Masterclass, is on sale until December 31st. You can use the code Christmas225 to get $225 off. And like always, you guys, if you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.